It's good to be back with you as we are here for another day of Bible study. My name is Kevin Young. I have the privilege of serving at Christ Table as lead clergy. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, the URL that is right up there, www.christstable.today, is where you can find out everything you need to know about who we are. Encourage you to sign up for the email list there. And right there, if you'd like to know more about this study in particular, Fear Not, then that website, go.christstable.today/Fear Not, is where you can download the entire series of days and passages that go along with this study. You can also download a study guide there that will give questions that go along with every day, as well as an intro to each week of the study and a devotional that goes at the end of the week. And so there's a lot of great resources there at that URL. All of this put together, this study by Chris Anton. And if you'd like a printed copy of that study guide, you can get it right there. That helps us financially as well. Though we give the PDF, the exact version of the PDF, nothing's been cut out of the PDF. It's the same version as the print version. We give that away for free to you, but we do appreciate if you were able to partner with us in these studies financially, then it helps us continue to bring them to you each and every day of the study. Now, we have been discussing this idea of fear not and how that goes along in Scripture with several of the passages that are tied to Advent season, as well as other places as well. Fear is something, sadly, that tends to define Christians, sometimes even more than non-Christians. And I'm just not certain it should be that way. So we may be getting something wrong. So today we're actually going to take a look at a passage that kind of revolves around that in Matthew chapter 11, verses 1 through 5. Now, in Matthew 11, Jesus is about to send his disciples out to teach, to preach, and to kind of share his message with other people on their own. This is still kind of early in their ministry time, but Jesus is beginning to lean on them a little more to own his message, not be afraid of other people, not be afraid of sharing the message. And this is something that they're going to need, obviously, eventually, whenever he is no longer present with them. So whenever we come to Matthew chapter 11, verse 1, Jesus has finished giving instructions to his 12 disciples about what he wants them to do whenever they go out on their own and do this. And then he goes off on his own to begin to teach and preach in towns throughout the region. But this name in verse 2, you're going to maybe be familiar with because it's part of the pre-story to the Christmas story where Zechariah and Elizabeth are promised a child and their old age, and that child leaps within the womb whenever Mary, who is pregnant with Jesus, comes into proximity of Elizabeth, who is pregnant with John, who will eventually become known as he is here, as John the Baptist, not the denomination, but John the Baptizer, John the one who baptizes others, full immersion in water. So John finds himself here in Matthew chapter 11 in prison. He hears about all the things the Messiah was doing. The Messiah, Jesus, his cousin, the guy whom he actually baptized. John baptized Jesus. So John sends his disciples to Jesus and asks, hey, are you the Messiah that we've been expecting, or should we keep looking for someone else? And to me, I read this and I think this is a question that John should have had the answer to by now, right? I mean, he baptized Jesus. He's family with Jesus. They were probably at a lot of family functions together. And now he's asking this like Christianity 101 question. Are you the Messiah? Are you the one that we've been expecting, or should we be looking at someone else? And what I hear is a bit of doubt, and it's crept in. I don't think that doubt was necessarily always there. And we have this capacity as well, right? We have certainty. We trust someone. There is no question about that person. But then something happens where we begin to doubt. We begin to question what we thought we knew. And so many relationships have broken down because of this. Many work relationships have broken down because of this. Many friendships have broken apart because of this, because something happened that introduced fractures into the foundations of the relationship. And then you begin to question. And those questions are going to kind of drive whether or not you can replace those faith-based assumptions into the relationship, or whether or not it's kind of unable to be repaired, or whether the juice isn't worth the squeeze, whether it's not worth putting the time and the effort into repairing that relationship. And so this, it seems, is where John the Baptist is with Jesus. Jesus is not necessarily confirming for John that he's the Messiah. So John reaches this point of doubt or faith. And to his credit, John goes to the person directly, sends his messengers to Jesus. He's in prison. He can't go. Sends his messengers, his followers to Jesus, his disciples, to say, hey, are you the Messiah? Are you the one that we have been expecting, or should we be looking for someone else? And the real reason for this is because Jesus' actions did not necessarily match up to the assumed actions that would indicate that the individual was the Messiah. So doubt begins to creep in, and we have doubt and we have faith. It seems as though John really wants to have faith, but that doubt is still there. And doubt and faith are strange bedfellows, which, now that I think about it, is kind of a very strange line and idiom. Is that what that is? But they can coexist. They can coexist together. And I might even suggest that doubt and faith should coexist together, but still, even at that, they have to be in tension, but also in some sort of balance. Too much faith without any doubt is probably blind faith, is not healthy faith. But too much doubt without faith is so shaky as to perhaps be dangerous to faith itself. So this doubt and faith coexisting together, John sends his messengers to Jesus and says, hey, are you the guy we're looking for? And Jesus says, hey, why don't you just go back to John and tell him what you've heard and seen? Tell John he has absolutely no reason to fear. Well, you can say that, or you can just tell John what you've seen and let him make up his mind as to whether or not I am the Messiah. So he says, go back and tell John, tell him what you have heard and what you have seen. And Jesus gives them specifically the things that he wants them to say. And this is key. Tell them this, that the blind see, that the lame walk, that those with leprosy are cured, that the deaf hear, that the dead are raised to life, and the good news is being preached to the poor. And Jesus' disciples are like, yes, these are the things that are happening. And John's disciples are like, I don't think John's going to like this message. Why? John is fearing that Jesus either is not the Messiah that was promised, or John is fearing that Jesus has lost his way. And that by reminding him, hey, I've been preaching about you, you're supposed to be the Messiah, this is the thing that was foretold by my dad to the angel, that was foretold to your mom and Mary and your dad Joseph, God rest his soul, because we think Joseph is probably not on the scene at this point. Jesus, you need a kick in the backside to remember who you are supposed to be, why you have come. And that's the message to Jesus. And Jesus says, I know what you think. I know what everybody has thought the Messiah is going to be here to do, is to set up this earthly empire, this earthly kingdom, this Christian nationalism or Judaism nationalism here on earth. You know, that I know is what you thought was going to happen, that it was going to be all about borders and empire, and we will be the next great Rome, and rather than Caesar Augustus, it will be Jesus the Christos. I know that. But you know what? I'm really enamored with blind people being able to see again. I'm really smitten with lame people walking. I'm really kind of over the top about those with leprosy being cured and those who can't hear hearing again. I'm really kind of enjoying dead things being raised back to life, dead people being raised back to life, and the good news being preached to the poor. In fact, it is being preached to the poor. That good news, many times we hear that good news, that's the gospel. Many times we hear that people say, what is the gospel? And then it's doctrine. That's many times the answer that people will give. It's doctrine, it's theology, it's statements of faith, propositions. And whenever Jesus mentions it here, he says that the good news isn't salvation from hell. He doesn't say that the good news is my up and coming death, burial, and resurrection. He doesn't say that the good news is an eternity in heaven. He says that the good news is that broken and hurting people aren't broken and hurting anymore. That sidelined and maligned and misaligned individuals are no longer sidelined, maligned, or misaligned. That the good news, it's about preaching, but it's about preaching to the poor. What about? About hope. About a coming kingdom where the last shall be first and the first shall be last. For those who are on bottom shall be on top. Don't fear, John. I am the Messiah. But don't fear, John. I am the Messiah. And that is good news. But you may have misunderstood what the good news of God for humanity really is. So what truly is good news? And this, I think, is the question. This is the question that so oftentimes religious people, Jesus people, Christian people end up getting wrong, is whenever they think about what the good news is, it's get out of hell free cards, it's heaven on the other side, it's winning the political election, it's all of these other things. That aren't Jesus. It's not that all of those things are bad or wrong, but it doesn't seem to be the good news of what Jesus came to do, that there is better news than that. So I wonder what for you is good news. What for you, when you think about faith and when you think about not fearing, is good news. Sadly, oftentimes the church has not given good news to people, thinking that it was giving good news to people. Just like John the Baptist, the disciples, a lot of people around Jesus thought that they were giving good news to folks by speaking of this Messiah, this empire, this nation that would be religious. Jesus continually said and showed, I'm not really here to do that. So you have a choice. What for you truly is good news and doesn't align with Jesus? It's been good to be with you today. Looking forward to being back with you tomorrow as we continue on the study in week 3. Until that time,